Good afternoon, it's John Heaton, and today I'm going to tackle the next part in my series of analysing Beatles and solo Beatles lyrics. So I got up to, I've done McCartney Beatle period, I've done John Lennon Beatle period, and I've done a video on George Harrison's lyrics, and now I'm going to try and tackle Paul McCartney's solo career. And sorry to those of you out there who are not interested in lyrics, and if you're not, I suggest you skip the video and stick to the music and leave the lyrics to your imagination. If that's your bag, then go ahead. Don't watch this. It's just only a piece of fun. And a lot of people have slagged off McCartney's post-Beatles lyrics and saying they're lazy and missed John's contribution. And well, one has to admit that there's not too many Eleanor Rigby's or Penny Lane's in the solo work. If any, up to the standard of those two. But when you've set such a high standard, how can you maintain it? So, and a lot of the solo songs work perfectly well lyrically and are pretty imaginative, and I'm going to point out quite a few examples. And some of them are just simple and they fit the melody that you can't really imagine anyone improving on them, including John Lennon, to be honest with you. And a couple of examples spring to mind there, like the song Let 'Em In, immensely simple lyrics about someone's knocking at the door, someone's ringing the bell. Do me a favour, answer the door and let him in. And then he lists all the people who are coming into the party, and it's just perfectly simple and perfectly effective. And then another criticism is people tend to concentrate on a couple of songs and say that it's representative of Paul's career completely, like Mary Had a Little Lamb and We All Stand Together, the frog chorus. But I would point out that both of those songs are intended for children, and they're perfectly okay if taken in that context. And Paul had a daughter called Mary, who was not much more than a couple of years old at the time. And he had young kids in 1984, so they're still relatively young, when he did the frog chorus. So, and they were both successful singles, so I'm not going to say that was representative. I think Paul is a master of different genres, and he proved his expertise at that one. Obviously, a big proportion of his solo career and his Beatles career is love songs, and they're pretty moving, some of them. I'm going to read out the lyrics to Maybe I'm Amazed, if I can find it. Because that was the one he wrote for Linda just after the Beatles split, and it's not in that composer-artist volume, but it is on this All the Best compilation. Incidentally, on the sleeve of this, it's credited the Maybe I'm Amazed song to Wings and says 1976, so I guess they might have originally been intended to include the live version, but it's the studio version on the album. And just beautiful words. Maybe I'm amazed at the way you love me all the time. Maybe I'm afraid of the way I love you. Maybe I'm amazed at the way you pulled me out of time. You hung me on a line. Maybe I'm amazed at the way I really need you. It's really a song thanking Linda for getting him through, or in the process of getting him through the Beatles split, which was a tough period for him, and emotionally, and basically like losing an important job, or probably worse actually, or feeling redundant. And Linda got him through that period, and it's a very affecting love song. And I know a certain friend of mine, Rose Stewart, it's your favourite McCartney song, and you won't say you'll praise that to the skies, whereas not being so impressed with some of his other work, and that's fine. I think My Love is an effective ballad. It's too sickly sweet for some people, but I think it's very effective. I'm Carrying from London Town is another very effective ballad with effective words. Warm and Beautiful from Speed of Sound from this. Yes, saccharine, but it suits the tune perfectly, like a glove, and I wouldn't have it any other way. There are a few love songs where I think the tune is attractive, but the lyrics are perhaps not at the same level as the tune, and I would include Distractions from Ploughs in the Dirt, Footprints, Only Love Remains from Press to Play, and Treat Her Gently from Venus and Mars in that category. But then a good riposte to all of those people who say yeah, Paul, you're just writing silly love songs. Was the song Silly Love Songs from this album, 1976, a huge #1 hit. And basically it was a response to the critics saying some people want to fill the world with silly love songs, and what's wrong with that? I'd like to know, because here I go again. I think it's a really fantastic track, and Amongst Wings is Triumph's huge hit, and you know, 2 fingers up to the critics basically. Continuing the theme that he started with the Beatles, he's often tells a story within a song, and as I said, we don't have too many Eleanor Rigby's in the solo career, but we do have a couple of successful story songs like Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey, which is charming. I'm not going to read out the lyrics to it, but Little Lamb Dragonfly is another charming song. I'm not quite sure who it's about. People have speculated quite a bit about that one, but it's got charming lyrics. And whereas Junior's Farm is a story song which I don't think works particularly well lyrically, you know, lines about taking the groceries to the store and finding the price was higher than before, and not particularly inspired lines. And then Biker Like an Icon is one of my least favourite McCartney songs from the Off the Ground album. I could do without that track. Several of his songs are very evocative, and that review I read out in the first part of the analysis of Paul's Beatle period talked of empathy, and I think that is full of, I think a lot of his solo songs are full of empathy and very evocative. I'm going to start off by quoting Mull of Kintyre as a, you know, it's a song about that part of Scotland where Paul had a property, and one would swear when one's listening to the song or watching the video that one's right there with him. It's you know, far have I travelled and much have I seen, dark distant mountains with valleys of green, past painted deserts, the sunset's on fire as he carries me home to the Mull of Kintyre. Sweep through the heather like deer in the glen, carry me back to the days I knew when, nights when we sang like a heavenly choir of the life and the times of the Mull of Kintyre. Actually, this book is missing the 3rd verse, which off the top of my head is smiles in the sunshine and tears in the rain, still take me back where my memories remain. I can't remember the last 2 words, the last 2 lines, but it's I think it's a very effective song lyrically, and I think Heart of the Country is simple, very simple. You know, I look high, look low, looking everywhere I go, looking for a home in the heart of the country. Heart of the country where the holy people go. Heart of the country, smell the grass in the meadow. One could swear that one was there with Paul on the farm, in the field with the cowpats and whatever. And Country Dreamer is another brilliant song evocative of being in the country. I'd like to walk in a field with you, take my hat and my boots off too. I'd like to lie in a field with you. Would you like to do it too, May? Would you like to do it too? I think Ballroom Dancing is another good song talking about his youth and in the days when he used to go ballroom dancing. That's effective. And I think, I'm not sure, did I bring the lyrics? Yeah, there's a couple of songs on this album which I think is probably his best latter day album lyrically. I know some people would disagree. I like Vintage Clothes, check the rack, what went out is coming back. I like that line. And then That Was Me, I think is very effective. That was me playing conkers at the bus stop on a blanket in the Bluebells, that was me. And then House of Wax is a kind of unusual song for Paul because he's talking about quite mysterious words here. Lightning hits the House of Wax, poets spill out on the street to set alight the incomplete remainders of the future. Hidden in the yard, hidden in the yard. Thunder drowns the trumpet's blast, poets scatter through the night, but they can only dream of flight away from their confusion. Hidden in the yard, underneath the wall, buried deep below 1,000 layers lay the answer to it all. I think that's pretty effective words, and a nice song to boot, House of Wax. I think it's my son's favourite on that album. Then Let Me Roll It, I think is another very evocative and empathetic song, and this, in this case, about reconciliation. Some say it was written aimed somewhat at John Lennon after the fallout they'd had. I can't tell you how I feel, my heart is like a wheel, let me roll it to you. It's just a beautiful line. And similarly, Dear Friend from the Wildlife album, also a song of reconciliation, possibly aimed at John Lennon again. Dear friend, what's the time? Is this really the borderline? Does it really mean that much to you? Are you afraid, or is it true? I think it's just beautiful. Then we've got a couple of tracks from there's a track from Tug of War, which is a tribute to John Lennon, and is possibly one of Paul's finest ever lyrics. And if I said, I really knew you well, what would your answer be if you were here today? Well, knowing you, you'd probably laugh and say that we were worlds apart if you were here today. But as for me, I still remember how it was before, and I'm holding back the tears no more. I love you. What about the time we met? Well, I suppose you could say we were playing hard to get. Didn't understand a thing, but we could always sing. What about the night we cried, because there wasn't any reason left to keep it all inside? Never understood a word, but you were always there with a smile. And if I say I really loved you and was glad you came along, then you were here today, for you were in my song. Here today. Beautiful. And then whilst we're on, shall we cover it next? Before we go to the Tug of War title track, I just want to point out the track Put It There from here, which I think is, do we have the lyrics on here? I think we do. Here. So this is a song about him and his dad, because he used to say, put it there if it weighs a ton, after they'd had an argument. Give me your hand, I'd like to shake it. I want to show you I'm your friend. You'll understand if I can make it clear. It's all that matters in the end. Put it there if it weighs a ton. That's what a father said to his youngest son. I don't care if it weighs a ton, as long as you and I are here. Put it there. As long as you and I are here, put it there. Beautiful. And then we've got tracks which I think are either philosophical or quite surreal. And Tug of War, the title track, I think it's probably in his top 5 lyrics post-Beatles. It's a tug of war, what with one thing and another. It's a tug of war. We expected more, but with one thing and another, we were trying to outdo each other in a tug of war. And then my favourite bit of the song is, in years to come they may discover what the air we breathe and the life we lead are all about, but it won't be soon enough for me. In another world, we could stand on top of the mountain with our flag unfurled. In a time to come, we will be dancing to the beat, played on a different drum. I love that line. And anything else from that album? No, I've mentioned Don't Let It Bring You Down from London Town. Beautiful philosophical song about, cheering up. Though some things in life are hard, to bear, don't let it bring you down. Up and down your carousel will go. But, things seem strange, but they change. Oh, they change. So basically an uplifting song to someone who's maybe feeling a bit depressed. And then I think One of These Days from this album is the best song on the album and a great lyric. One of these days when my feet are on the ground, I'm going to look around and see what's right, see what's there, and breathe fresh air ever after. One of these days when a job just takes too long, I'm going to sing my song and see what's right, see what's there, and breathe fresh air ever after. One of these days when we both are at our ease, when you've got time to please yourself, see what's right, see what's there, breathe fresh air ever after. One of these days when my feet are on the ground, I'm going to look around and see what's right, see what's there, breathe fresh air ever after. Just an amazing song, I love it to bits. So we talked about the evocative, personal and songs of reconciliation, and we're on to the philosophical surreal category, somewhat. Venus and Mars, the title track, I think works well lyrically. I think on the negative side, maybe a track like Get On The Right Thing from Red Rose Speedway is a little bit repetitive lyrically, doesn't really work, and Come On People, Let the World Begin, there's a future and it's charging in. I think that's a little bit cliched as a lyric. I can see it's sincere, but it doesn't do much for me. I think he's done better. And then we've got, mentioned House of Wax, and we've got However Absurd from the Press to Play album, which I just did a long review with Andy Brooks and James Griffiths. You can find it on Andy Brooks's channel, who goes under the name of Fan of Wings, one word, or Andy B. And I love this song, although James and Andy didn't particularly like it, but anyway, it's their opinion. Ears twitch like a dog breaking eggs in a dish. Do not mock me when I say this is not a lie. It's a funny thing, half serious, with our hands on our ears. Living dreams with our mouths ajar, wide awake we go to sleep, however absurd it may seem. Custom-made dinosaurs, too late now for a change. Everything is under the sun, but nothing is for keeps. However absurd it may seem. I just think it's a really good lyric and quite 60s-esque, although James and Andrew couldn't see that. Anyway, I like it. It's probably my favourite song on that particular album. Then we've got the category of the vaudeville, you know, the Your Mother Should Know, When I'm 64, Honey Pie kind of stuff he did with the Beatles. Well, he carried on doing that after the Beatles, and I think successful in that genre was a track on the McCartney album called Man We Was Lonely, which is delightful. And then You Gave Me the Answer from Venus and Mars has very unpretentious, good words. You'll never be crowned by the aristocracy. To their delight, you'll merely invite them in for a cup of tea. I think that works really well. On the downside, a track like English Tea from Chaos is quite annoying for me. You know, talking about playing croquet and very gay and you know, sitting on the lawn sipping tea, and it's not really doesn't ring true to me. It's, you know, maybe if Fred Astaire had sung it, it would be a little bit more genuine. But anyway, I find it annoying. But that's just me. You don't have to agree. We've got songs of escape, which dominate this album. Escape, Stroke Freedom, and the title track, Stuck Inside These Four Walls, Sent Inside Forever, Never Seeing No One Nice Again Like You. If we ever get out of here, thinking giving it all away to a registered charity, all I need is a pint a day if we ever get out of here. And then the climax of the song, and then the rain exploded with a mighty crash as we fell into the sun. And the first one said to the second one there, I hope you're having fun, Bound on the Run. It's just a wonderful song made up of 3 bits, but that's not to say anything bad about it, because a lot of great songs are made up of 3 bits, such as You Never Give Me Your Money and, as I've mentioned before, Happiness is a Warm Gun. We've got other songs of freedom, great lyrically, like Mrs. Vanderbilt, which has the, I forget the opening words now, down in the jungle living in a tent. You don't pay money, you don't use rent, you don't use money and you don't pay rent, and you don't even know the time and you don't mind. What's the use of worrying? No use. Very good song, uplifting, completely uplifting. And Mamounia is, talk about freedom, you know, the joy of, not that I've done it too often, but the joy of, you know, being out in the pouring rain and getting absolutely soaked and not giving a monkey's about it is quite an amusing and quite a sort of freedom rush, I guess, if you do it, as long as the rain's not too cold and miserable. So if you're in the Bahamas or something, you could do it and quite enjoy it. And Paul was in Nigeria when he wrote this, so you probably practiced as he preached. Lay down your umbrella, strip off your plastic mag. You never felt the rain, my friend, till it's running down your back. I think it's a great line. We've got a song or two about feminism, particularly Daytime, Nighttime Suffering, where all the prizes for the game she entered with little chance of much success. Daytime, Nighttime Suffering is all she gets. I think it was one of Paul and Linda's favourites, actually. It's a B-side to Good Night Tonight. Then we've got the nonsense, what I've called the nonsense stroke annoying category. And actually, controversially, I forgot to write it down here, but I would include Smile Away in this category. I find the lyrics, you know, I could smell your feet a mile away, or smell your breath a mile away. I find them a little puerile compared to the, you know, once there was a way to get back homeward that would be used to from Abbey Road. So I think it's a decent enough tune. It's just never been one of my favourites on Ram, primarily because of the lyrics. And we've got the other me from Pipes of Peace, which is the one always quoted for having that terrible line. How does it go? I know I was a crazy fool for treating you the way I did, but something took a hold of me and I acted like a dustbin lid, which is probably the worst rhyme under the sun. But then, in its defence, kid is Cockney rhyming slang for kid is dustbin lid, which was Cockney rhyming slang is a kind of East London dialect. But Paul wasn't from the east of London, so he wouldn't have grown up with that. So either way, it's manufactured, and he would have probably done better to think of another rhyme for that, or another verse altogether, because I think it's invited far too much criticism than it warranted. On other songs which don't make much sense, Nod Your Head, Rinse the Raindrops, I Really Love You from Flaming Pie, Fire You and Come On To Me from Egypt Station are just dreadful lyrically. Spin It On probably has the worst lyric I've ever heard from Paul, and I didn't even know what it was until I read in the composer-artist book here, because it's printed the lyrics, and in the sheet music of Back to the Egg. It's printed it. It's the first verse from Spin It On. Off to the flicks with the piddle in her nicks, to the fair with her hair in curlers. I don't know what Paul was thinking, but I can understand why he didn't include the lyric sheet on Back to the Egg. Monkberry Moon Delight, having said that, is a great example of nonsense lyrics. And I particularly like this song because it mentions my hometown, Budapest, or where I live now. I know no banana is older than the rest, and my hair is a tangled beretta. Would I leave my pyjamas to Phyllis Budapest, and I don't get the gist of your letter. Ketchup, soup and puree, don't get left behind. I think it's mad lyrics, but I think they work. And so, you know, I quoted a few naff ones at the end there, towards the end, but I think they're easily outweighed by the decent stuff. And as I say, if you're a fan of McCartney's work, quite often the lyrics he comes up with are perfectly good enough for the song and shouldn't really be improved on. I'm thinking particularly on the love song side, maybe some of the story songs he could have done with a hand from someone to make them better. But we have what we have. Sorry I didn't include any lyrics from McCartney 3. I couldn't find anything particularly worthy of mention from that particular album. I think Deep Down is pretty weak lyrically, by the way. Anyway, this is not about that album. I was just talking about Paul McCartney as a lyricist. Since the Beatles, you don't have to agree, it's just my opinion. Thank you for watching. See you next time.